Hello, welcome to Clash of the Rams, the sports talk show. I'm your host, Jeremy Hayes. Along with me, we have Daveson Perez,
What's going on?
Eric Russo, and Jared Doherty. Stealing Eric's salute?
Yep, I did it on purpose.
All right.
Real quick, Jeremy, just before we start, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the women that have breast cancer. I'm wearing my pink today in support of the movement. This is October Awareness Month, and just a quick shout out to my aunt who has breast cancer as well. So yeah,
Never been more glad for you to cut me off. That's great, actually.
Let's have a good show.
Yeah, all right, so let's get started on that note. And we're going to start off with the postseason for baseball. So, overall, Red Sox up 2, got a game at 6. We're going to be recording, and video will be uploaded, but I mean, let's still go into it anyway. Daveson, your thoughts on the Red Sox so far?
I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Last game with David Ortiz having his first multi-home run game in the postseason, that was great to watch. When you think about the fact that the Red Sox in that first game beat the Rays 12-2, and every single player on that team had a hit, and 7 out of 9 of those players had an RBI in that game. So that says a lot about the offense. Lester pitched great in that first game, and it's looking very positive for the Red Sox.
Yeah, I think we kind of expected a low-scoring, close series, and it's been anything but so far. The Rays pitching, Matt Moore and David Price were just totally dominated by the Red Sox. I don't think anybody really saw that coming because they've had so much success against the Red Sox in the past. But the Rays have looked like the bad news bears out there. The error after error. Even in the first game, there wasn't an error, and they looked like they were totally lost. David DeJesus and Sean Rodriguez cannot play the wall in left field. Every ball that the Red Sox hit off that wall is bouncing back into the infield. They had an error in Game 2, and then, of course, Will Myers in right field, where we don't really know what happened, but he loses the ball. He thinks that center field is going to take it, and it opens up really the series for the Red Sox, because ever since that moment, the Red Sox have really taken off.
Yeah, I'm glad you made the point about the wall, the Green Monster. You figured by now the Tampa Bay Rays would kind of get a hold of that after their whole season. I like the reference to the bad news bears. It clearly looks like that. The first 2 games turned out not how I expected. I thought it was going to be low scoring, pitching duel, and it's been everything but that, like you guys have said. So it's been an exciting first 2 games for the Red Sox. It's great hearing the Myers chants. It gives a new element to this Fenway crowd that seems to have been gone for the last 3-4 years. So I'm a very big fan of that. It's fun to actually watch these games now.
I think that's a good point. The Fenway crowd has been awesome so far. They've been giving it to Myers. They've been loud. They've been into it. And it's just that fact that it's been a while since the Red Sox have been in this position. So it's good to see that they're back and they're 1 win away from going to the ALCS once again.
Definitely. And not only that, you have the A's who are playing today against Detroit. Their fans are out of this world. I mean, let's be honest. You watch on TV and you see all the fans with their signs, holding up their signs, and really supporting their teams in the Coliseum. What a game for Verlander, that game. Not pitching so well and not having his team come through for him when they needed him most. Also, Sonny Gray, he had a good game as well that game, with the nice little pitches, giving Verlander a run for his money. Overall, I'm loving the fact that the postseason is so exciting. In past years, not just because the Red Sox weren't in it, but just because I don't know, I just didn't have the same excitement to watch the playoffs as I have this season.
I agree. It feels like there's a certain element to the MLB postseason, like October, the postseason's here, and you just think back to 2007 and 2004 with the Red Sox. But back then, it just felt like the crowds were always insane. And watching these postseason the last few years, it just hasn't had that element. And just watch the Pirates fans, like them going crazy with flags and signs and all. Like, it just seems everyone is finally back into the baseball season. It's ironic that the Red Sox are finally back into it. It just feels awkward that we're saying this now. But really, in general, it feels like all around that all the fan bases have finally brought this huge element, and you can't watching a game with that crazy of fans. It really just brings a new element to the game, and it's exciting to watch.
Definitely. I agree.
And you mentioned the fans. I think it really is. You gotta give credit to the A's and Pirates fans, two teams that haven't been there in a while. I mean, we're from Boston. We all obviously know Red Sox fans have been there always. But the fact that you have these two teams and their fans are actually supporting their team when they're doing well. But they're if you watch we're all baseball fans. You watch their games any other year, they're still supporting their team even when they're bad. Yeah. So it's just interesting to see.
It says a lot.
Yeah. But again, off the subject of fans, what do you guys think of the other series besides the Red Sox race? What about the Pirates or the Dodgers?
The Pirates and the Cardinals, not really surprising, but it was a very high-scoring 2 games, which was shocking. But the Pirates were able to come back after getting killed the first game, then they come back. So it just says a lot about that team, and I'd like to see that team move further and get a win in that. So I'll let you guys continue on that.
I really like to expand on your point about the Pittsburgh Pirates. They're such a resilient team. It's so refreshing to watch, because right when you think that they're out, when Carlos Beltran hits that game-time home run in the 8th inning, they come right back the next inning and score that go-ahead run. McCutchen is a tremendous leader on this team. Russell Martin is emerging as a great leader on this team.
Who does it remind you of, the 04 Red Sox?
Who would have thought that Francisco Liriano would be pitching so well when he's only getting paid $1 million for this 1 year? That's saying something about his commitment. That's saying something about just the organization of the Pirates in general, taking a risk on Liriano and getting that big game. That just brings to mind the kind of like the storyline behind the Oakland A's and the Pirates being two teams with not a lot of money to pay their players, and to see that they're both in the postseason now, it's great for baseball.
And to contrast that, the Dodgers are up 2-1 in their series now, and inching closer to a possible Red Sox-Dodgers World Series, which I know everybody wants to see. But the Dodgers are a team that have an astronomical payroll, and Carl Crawford and Adrian Gonzalez and all those guys that we know and used to love. But it's just great, like you said, to see the A's and the Pirates, these low-market teams, competing with big-time teams. And we'll see if they can, if it translates in the later rounds.
All right, well, we got to move on to our next topic, which is NFL Sunday. The Patriots were handed their first loss by the Bengals, which, I mean, it's odd just seeing a Sunday without Tom Brady throwing a touchdown, but, I mean, they lost. The Broncos survived against the Cowboys in a crazy shootout that seemed like a video game. So, guys, what are your thoughts on this week's football? Daveson?
In my opinion, both quarterbacks looked like complete and total shells of themselves. Andy Dalton had an efficient game, but at the same time he had no touchdowns. He wasn't able to get it done in the red zone. Tom Brady, on the other hand, 197 yards passing, 13 for 28, I believe. That's not Tom Brady. That's 54% completing 54% of your passes isn't Tom Brady. But what I did like was that the defenses really from both sides really stepped it up. They made things very hard for both Brady and Dalton to make any moves. And finally, just what killed the Patriots was the fact that there were so many drop passes again. That's started to become a legitimate concern for this team, and they need to correct that if they want to win more ball games.
Yeah, I mean, to put it bluntly, that was a pathetic performance by the Patriots offense yesterday. Not something that we've been used to seeing at all. The defense, once again, was great, so I don't even want to bring them into the conversation, but the Patriots have major problems offensively. They looked like they were taking steps each week. They scored 30 points against Atlanta down in Atlanta last week, and we thought that they were making strides. They were getting there. Then you get Danny Amendola back yesterday. Gronk's going to be back in a couple of weeks. You think things are starting to come together, and you have that yesterday. You take 50 steps back. I mean, that was one of the worst performances offensively that I've ever seen the Patriots have. No team with Tom Brady should be that bad offensively.
And the funny part about all of this is that it literally came down to one final play where they could have still ended up winning the game. If that monsoon didn't randomly come for that final drive, they still were in position to almost win that game. But it's absolutely pathetic. They should not be putting up less than 10 points a game with Tom Brady at the end. But if you're a Patriots fan, you can still hang on to a little bit of hope if Gronk can come back, puts more attention to Gronk with the defense, will bring more attention to Gronk and give a little pressure off of these rookie receivers and Danny Amendola. But it's just very hard to swallow if you're a Patriots fan after watching that go down, and then you have the Saints next week.
That's exactly what you need to do. You need to get Gronk back. They're facing the Saints this upcoming week. You need to get Gronk back. That's going to be a big piece in all of this. What Gronk can do is he can do a variety of things. He can block for running backs and create lanes, and he can get you those first downs that you need, as well as getting some extra yardage. He's good for field goal and special teams. So you got to get him back. And secondly, the offensive line has to step up. They have to step up. Somebody has to step up as a leader on that offensive line and galvanize their troops and make sure that no pass rush can penetrate Tom Brady's pocket, because that was a big deal in this past game against the Bengals.
I say we switch it up a little bit. Let's talk about the Madden 13 game that's going on with Tony Romo and Peyton Manning. Tony Romo, what is there to say about this guy? He can put up over 500 yards, throw 5 touchdowns, and still comes out as a joke, because just when you think that Denver is going to go down, Tony Romo does what Tony Romo does and screws something up and throws an interception. Granted, I thought he played phenomenal. It came down to that one play that he really needed to make, and he does what he always does and just cannot pull through. And it's hard to watch.
I said this last week, but what Denver is doing and the points they're putting up is just incredible. It really is. It's video game numbers. Peyton Manning is off the charts right now. He's on pace to shatter Tom Brady's records from 2007. I mean, 20 touchdowns, 1 interception, just ridiculous. And if you're a Patriots fan, if you're not sitting there and saying, what is wrong with the Patriots for letting Wes Welker go, then you better start thinking it, because he has 7 touchdown catches already. He had 6 all of last season. Mm-hmm. But what he brought to the Patriots in the offense is exactly what you're missing right now, and it's somebody that's dependable, that can catch the ball when you need a catch. Again, yesterday we saw how many drop passes from the Patriots receivers. Mm-hmm. Just ridiculous. Yeah. And Wes Welker's out there with Peyton Manning just absolutely dominating. You're one of your biggest threats in the AFC, and they let him basically walk to them. It's just each week it's just worse and worse to think about that they let him go.
We've all mentioned it. Jared mentioned how Romo had 500 yards passing, a new record for him. That's sad. If you're Jerry Jones, you got to be asking yourself, like, how many pieces do I got to put around this guy to actually win a football game? Going into that game against Denver, you could easily tell that the Cowboys' game plan was to neutralize all of the talent that they have at wide receiver by double teaming Welker here and there, Demaryius Thomas picking him up, and just letting Moreno beat them. But what happened was that Denver has so many talented playmakers on their team that it's hard to, with a 12-man defensive crew, to put bodies on all of those wide receivers. And Peyton Manning just took advantage of that. This was Tony Romo's game to lose. At one point, I thought that Tony Romo was going to win this game, and it was all because of that interception that Manning threw at the end of the third quarter, putting Dallas in great field position. So if it wasn't for that late interception by Tony Romo, we might be seeing at a different winner in last night's game.
I feel like that's his career if it weren't for the leaders.
If it wasn't for that one play, he might have done something.
All right, Romo. Before we move on, next week the Broncos streak might come to an end with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a good one.
It may happen.
I can't wait.
We'll see, though. But, moving on, we're going to go on to NHL, and we finally have hockey back, actual hockey games to talk about. So, guys, I'm just going to start with Jared. Just let me know what you think so far. But let's talk specifically about the Bruins. What do you think about them so far?
Yeah, we're in Boston, so might as well focus right away on the Bruins. And 2 divisional games. See, Steven Stamkos, new into the division. That team. I don't have any hope for Tampa Bay anyways. None of the Florida teams, I feel bad for them being in the division, but we talked about that last week. But now, the big matchup was Bruins-Detroit, the new rivalry in the division. And did the Bruins look bad at any time during that game?
No.
They looked phenomenal. They were facing one of the best teams in the league. Tuukka Rask was lights out again. And the power play was looking good. Krug was looking good. This team is coming around and looking great right now, and I'll let you
That power play is a big thing because for years we've been saying the power play, we need help on the power play. And it finally looks like they're at a spot where they're going to have a pretty consistent success rate on the power play. Torrey Krug is the difference at the point. He can make plays. He has the vision to make passes. He can shoot the puck. We saw in the playoffs last year that he has a rocket from the point, and we saw it the other night. He let a slap shot go and scored a goal. And Zdeno Chara being in front on the power play is something they should have done a long time ago, and they didn't do because of fear of injuries and stuff like that. But in Game 7 against Toronto last year during the big comeback, that was a huge goal when he was in front on the tying goal, and we're seeing it again now in the regular season that with that big, huge body in front, it's extremely hard for a goalie to see anything. So with Chara in front and Krug at the point, and then of course Jerome McGinley, who has an awesome shot as well off the wall, they look very, very good, very solid on the power play, and that's been a huge part of their success through the first 2 games.
Yeah. Well, if you ask me, when I was watching that game, it seemed to me that Detroit was just gassed, and I think that's in large part due to the aggressiveness that the Bruins are coming out with this season. I feel like they have a very balanced roster in terms of youth and veterans. They got young guys like Torrey Krug who are making an impact and just really just going after it. Zdeno Chara is contributing. Milan Lucic is also contributing with his assists and his presence. Tuukka Rask, man, he's been great so far this season with 25 saves last game, and they're really making a solid statement in their division that they're nothing to play with, and that they're a team to beat in this league.
Yeah, I want to bring up one other person we kind of talked about before the show, Jordan Caron, who the Bruins who drafted highly a few years ago and have been expecting him the last couple of years to make an impact, and he hasn't done it. He's been up for a cup of coffee a couple of times, and he hasn't shown that he belongs. And finally now, Carl Soderberg gets hurt right at the end of the preseason, and Jordan Caron gets an opportunity on that new look third line, and he's been awesome. He's been aggressive. He's gone to the net. He's looked like he wants to stay in the NHL. He knows that this is probably his last opportunity, and so far he's shown that he's strong on the puck. He goes hard to the net, and he scored. We thought he scored opening night, and then he scored against Detroit. So that's been a big development for the Bruins on that third line.
I know, I completely agree. Jordan Caron has stepped up and been great. Let's shy away from the Bruins for a second. Let's talk about 2 teams I want to focus on. One team at the top, one team at the bottom, who is usually a good rivalry with the Bruins. Let's first talk about Toronto's success, and I think they've looked excellent for the first few games. They've played 3 games, 3-0, and they're doing excellent. They've beat actual good teams. And then let's look at the bottom, Philadelphia Flyers. They are looking pitiful, which is a surprise because Claude Giroux, when he's healthy, he is a guy that makes differences in this league, and it's just watching this with Vincent Lecavalier, and both of them, you figured they would come up together and make this team work. But that team is a disaster right now. It's only 3 games, but still, it's just...
And they fired their head coach today, Peter Laviolette, after 3 games, which is kind of unheard of in any league to be fired in the first week of the season. But that just shows you how bad things are in Philadelphia. They had a down year last year, but with the talent that they have, obviously they always have goaltending problems and problems on the defensive end. But like you said, they're kind of in disarray right now. They fire their coach right off the bat. And Tim Thomas, let's talk about him. He had a great first game on Florida's opening night, and then gives up 5 goals, gets pulled after the second period in the second game. So his return is kind of off to a shaky start. 1 good game, 1 bad game.
I still think Thomas will pull out in the end. I don't think he's going to have the wins, and he's not going to look as good as he did in Boston because he doesn't have that defensive core in front of him. But I think he is still going to be decent. He's not going to be the Tim Thomas that he was in Boston, but he's going to be the Tim Thomas who's a better goaltender for that miserable team.
It's also hard to take a year off at his age. I know everybody says if anybody can do it, Tim Thomas can do it, but it's very hard to take a year off and come back and play at a high level, but we'll see.
And maybe he had a training gym in his bunker that he was away for a year or so.
All right, before we move on, we're also, 3 to 4 games into the season. It's still really early. We need to see how the Bruins will deal with injuries, if lines change. Tim Thomas, we'll have to wait and see what Tim Thomas can do.
Something
this
tells me
season.
we'll be talking about the power play being miserable in 3 weeks. That
Yeah.
just happens every year.
It's good for 2 games, though, so we got to hold on to that as Bruins fans. But it will be interesting to see if that can stay consistent for the rest of the year. But we're going to move on now to our debate, which, Eric, you will introduce the debate for us.
I will. This has kind of been in the headlines a lot lately regarding the NCAA and their players, but I'll let you guys talk about it. Should the NCAA pay their players?
And you guys are going to keep an eye on the clock as soon as we start.
We will.
3 minutes. Go ahead, Daveson.
Okay, so pretty much the NCAA really needs to reassess what they're doing with these players. They need to develop a system where players who do not make it to the NFL or the NBA or the major leagues get some type of compensation. I would say more so in the football arena. You have students who are busting their butts from middle school, high school on to try to attain their dreams of becoming professional football players. And then you have them play in the NCAA, and a lot of them, 200,000 to 300,000 to be exact, who are bringing suit to the NCAA with their recent settlement that they just had with EA Sports. So yeah, I really do feel like they should be getting paid.
All right, now we've talked about this. You know I've been on edge about the subject. But when it comes to it, I do not think that they should get paid at all. Mm-hmm. And now let me tell you why. They're student athletes, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you'd call them?
Yeah, they're student athletes.
The student comes before the athlete. You can't argue that they're professional athletes. It's an amateur.
Right.
If we're talking football, basketball, it's all technically amateur. It shouldn't be considered whatever the Canadian minor league is. It's college football, college sports.
Yeah.
They shouldn't get paid. And now going into the compensation thing with EA Sports and all that, I think they should, if the smart businessmen like higher up are smart, that drop all that, make sure they don't allow any more jerseys, any of that. They should end that. I agree with you with that. But as far as them getting paid for their work, they definitely shouldn't.
Well, when you bring up the idea of student athletes, that's very true. I totally agree with you. Academics should come before any type of sports.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you gotta realize that the NCAA is making $16.8 billion off of these students who are playing football and a variety of sports. They have contracts with Time Warner,
all right.
CBS, ESPN.
How about this then? I'll just cut you off with that. ESPN makes $4 million off of an event, Little League World Series. Each little leaguer would get $1,000. Does that sound right to you? Because that's basically the same.
That's a totally different scenario because these
little leaguers could be playing in the major leagues in a couple of years.
In the little league, do you seriously know the names of any of these little leaguers? Do you know their names?
So
do you
you're
buy
saying
the jerseys?
So you're saying
do you
they're
do you
famous.
buy the jerseys?
It's a totally different.
It's a totally different idea. When you're a college athlete and players and people are buying your jerseys, buying the video games that you're featured,
but that's what
that
we're
you're
talking
on
about
the front cover of, and you're not getting any money. The NCAA is not allowing you to profit out of any of this.
Yeah,
you're telling me that's totally fair.
I'm saying that's
even
the NCAA's
even
fault.
if you don't make it to the NFL.
Easy there. It's the NCAA's fault, but they shouldn't be doing that. But as far as them getting paid, they shouldn't be getting paid.
30 seconds.
If it's the NCAA's fault, then they should fix it. They should correct it, and they should pay for their wrongdoings.
That's the tricky thing. If they should give them compensation, I kind of want to agree with you with that, but then that leads into the idea of paying future players. And do you think any of these professionals would give respect to these kids who are kids coming in and they're already being paid?
We're not talking about a bunch of money. We're talking about compensation as more of like a thank you for contributing to the billions that we're making off of you.
All right, time. That's it. The debate's over. One of the best debates I think we've had.
We extended the time because we had to extend
I,
a little bit.
I saw Russo go like this, 30 more seconds.
I looked at him, I was like, let's extend it. Daveson's yelling, let's do it. So.
But we're going to go to our friends in the booth to see who won, and it looks like our host, Jeremy, is the winner this week.
I think Daveson actually kind of out-debated me in that one, but that was pretty good. And again, like we've said, it's a very controversial topic, and it's something that we need to do more research in, just because my opinions flip-flop like a bunch of times, so it just all depends on what you have. All right, but let's finish this off with our ramrants. Let's get it going, Jared. I'm hoping you have something ready.
Yeah,
Give us something good.
I'll stand up and yell now to offset Daveson. No, but I mean, I was very angry Twitter-wise. So earlier this last week, George Paros gets in a fight, or Paros, I always say it wrong. He gets in a fight, bangs his head off the ground, and that brings up that whole storm of the helmets in the NHL and is fighting something in the NHL. And I saw Eric tweet about it too. And I still just think that taking like people, a bunch of journalists and bloggers were saying, let's fighting. We don't need fighting. Like it's not an element to the sport, and that pisses me off because I really do think fighting is a huge deal and a huge element to NHL hockey, and it sparks up the environment, sparks up the teams, and it's a legit thing. Yes, it's a safety problem. It's dangerous, but if you're choosing to fight, you're choosing to go into that risk, and there's a lot of outcome, and everyone gets pumped up and excited after the fight. And I think that element to the sport is unique, and you don't see it in really any other sport. And I'm going to end it there because I'm going to start yelling, so I'll go back to Eric.
I was kind of blown away last week during the wild card game between the Rays and the Rangers when Nelson Cruz, who was suspended 50 games for PEDs, came back. It was his first at bat at home, and he got a standing ovation from the Rangers fans, which I could not believe that we were giving a standing ovation to a guy who just was suspended 50 games for using performance-enhancing drugs. What are we thinking? Not me. What are they thinking as MLB fans cheering somebody like that? This is something that the league, that the players, that the fans want out of the game. And there were the Rangers fans giving a standing ovation, chanting this guy's name during his first at bat. I thought it was ridiculous. I think it's a major problem that we have fans who think that was okay.
I'm just going to talk a little bit about Josh Freeman. Josh Freeman recently, yesterday, just signed a contract with the Minnesota Vikings for 1 year, $3 million. I think it's a good move for him, especially because he's getting put into a system where he has Adrian Peterson at running back and Greg Jennings at wide receiver with a bunch of up-and-coming rookie wide receivers. So if you ask me, it's a win for him. It's a win for the Vikings because at the end of the day, I do believe Josh Freeman is a good quarterback. I just think he didn't gel with the system that he was in Tampa. So I see it. If he does start, because Matt Castle is starting and Christian Ponder is still the go-to guy when he's healthy. If he starts, I think he has a legitimate chance of making the squad as maybe a second-tier quarterback.
All right. I was going to do my ramrant on something to do with the NFL, but I'm actually switching up as you talked. I'm actually just going to quickly end it off by saying the Washington Redskins need to change their name. It's racist. That should be all I have to say. It's racist. I'm going to write a column about it. You guys can read it, but I don't have enough time to actually go into reasons why, but yeah. All right. On that note,
right.
On that happy note, we're just going to finish up now. So you guys are good?
Yeah,
Final
we're good.
thoughts?
Good.
No, all set.
That was a pretty good debate on the little,
Very good debate. One of the best
little
we've had.
shaken by Daveson. All right.
No worries, man. I don't bite.
All right. All right. From us at Studio 73, we'll see you guys next time.